Hello, everyone. Welcome to LOCKBEARD Phenomena number 104. Buzz saw what? Seems like he might be giving some hints about some stuff going on out there, or he did in the past. And we've already talked about the time, when people were trying to put the idea out there that he was trying to say that they clipped out, they edited this clip to make it sound like he was saying we didn't go to the moon. That's not what he said. We already been over that. That was just dumbasses editing the video clip. We watched the entire clip, so we know. It's Saturday, September 2nd, 2023. We're doing normal time today. So I can deal with the heat at this hour right now, so it's not too bad. Looks like we got about 5 watching over on Rumble. We're not on YouTube because YouTube is asshole, and I've been trying to figure out how to make it where I can live stream to YouTube again, but I haven't been able to solve that problem yet. So only on Rumble. Sorry. Let's check the chat. The chat on the Rumble. Donald Fuller and Uncle Bones are here. Donald says, "Hey folks, Uncle Bones thing had to search to find you. What the F, Rumble? I don't know. Do I got you on one of my lists where I'm sending the links? I've been sending the links to I've been sending the links via email and by Facebook Messenger to a group chat I set up that's just for notification of the live stream. So I don't know. I don't remember who all I got on the on those lists, but that's one way to get it. A lot of people say that the email doesn't work for them. Other people, they don't like using Facebook, and I don't like it. I don't like it either. I wish I could do without it, but I guess I can't. At least for this, I try to ignore it as much as I can because Facebook is stupid. But the group chat for notifying people live stream, I think it is helping a few people to get here. So Donald says whiskey and sour mix Locky. What? Whiskey and sour? I don't know. Do I sound drunk or something? You're not my follows you were before, had to refollow. Really? Oh man, they starting to do that crap on Rumble now. I don't know. Has everybody found the new Facebook, or I'm sorry, the new YouTube channel? The link is in the description of the most recent videos. The link is in the description of the most recent videos. So But let me see if I can get it here. Can't live stream yet. I'm trying to get that situation rectified. I don't know when I'll be able to. Just a minute here. When I took a sip, it looked strong. It's cold water. Got pretty dried out today. burning stuff. So throat's a little messed up and sucking down water. So Uncle Bone says Radix on Rumble is gone. Also, what the F? Yeah, that's yeah, that kind of stuff we're not supposed to be having happen on Rumble. So maybe it's just an honest glitch or something. Hopefully, but at least you caught him. Uncle Bone says up to the new YouTube. Donald says still hot here. It's 80 where you're at. Let me see what we got right now. We are 94 degrees at the moment. Serious throat issue right now. Let me see. Let me switch this to that. We're gonna look at part of this video, talk about Buzz Aldrin, and try to sort out if we could figure out what he's actually saying. If that's possible. Donald saying, geez, you mean about the 94 degrees? Well, Uncle Bone's probably sitting down there saying, you know, that's nothing, because where he's at, let me see here, where he's at, it's not showing it's that much hotter down there, 95, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's 100 down there. Yeah, just 1 degree difference. That's unusual, but it can be the case. 97 says Uncle Bones. Let's check this out.
Some of the things he revealed about his time on the moon were nothing less than shocking. One of the most intriguing suggestions he's made involves the potential existence of hidden structures, or even a base on the far side of the moon. Whether it's the remnants of an ancient civilization or the work of extraterrestrial beings, this idea is rich with excitement and the allure of the unknown. Now let's dive right into the essence of Aldrin's suggestion. During interviews and public appearances, he has made references to peculiar anomalies that have been observed on the moon. Some of these anomalies include strange, unexplained structures or formations that can't be easily dismissed as natural geological features. In Aldrin's view, these could be indicators of something more. A hidden base or an artifact from a long-lost civilization, perhaps even something of alien origin. The far side of the moon, often referred to as the dark side, remains largely unexplored. This is the side that always faces away from the Earth due to the moon's synchronous rotation. It's a place shrouded in mystery, where the unexplained could easily hide, and where our limited knowledge leaves room for incredible possibilities. Aldrin's suggestion taps into this mystique, sparking our imagination and fueling a desire to explore and understand. Could there really be hidden structures or a base on the moon? Aldrin's comments have ignited a flurry of excitement and speculation. People have begun poring over lunar images, looking for signs of artificial construction. Some claim to have found evidence of towers, bridges, and even complex installations. While many of these findings can be attributed to pareidolia, seeing patterns where none actually exist, the fact that a seasoned astronaut like Aldrin entertained the idea adds a level of gravitas that's hard to ignore. Interestingly, Aldrin's enthusiasm for the subject goes beyond mere speculation. He has actively called for renewed exploration of the moon, especially its far side. His desire is not just to satiate our curiosity, but to unlock potential knowledge that could be vital for humanity's understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. If there were indeed ancient structures or alien bases on the moon, discovering and studying them could lead to technological advancements, historical revelations, and a completely new perspective on life in the universe. And let's not overlook the adventurous spirit that Aldrin's suggestion embodies. The notion that there could be hidden treasures waiting to be discovered on the moon is enough to ignite the imaginations of young and old alike. It harks back to the days of explorers and treasure hunters, where maps were dotted with "Here be dragons," and the unknown was a siren song calling to the bold and the brave. In the context of the space age, Aldrin's idea fits perfectly with the insatiable human drive to explore new frontiers. If there are hidden structures on the moon, they represent an irresistible challenge. What are they? Who built them? How old are they? The answers to these questions could be the holy grail of modern exploration, and the chase is exhilarating. Aldrin's call for exploration and investigation is a rallying cry for curiosity, adventure, and the pursuit of knowledge. It's a statement that resonates with those who refuse to believe that we have uncovered all there is to know about our universe. It's a spark that lights the fire of imagination in scientists, explorers, and dreamers alike. However, when it comes to tales of mystery and wonder from outer space, few incidents capture the imagination quite like Aldrin's account of seeing a peculiar object during the historic Apollo 11 mission to the moon. It was July 1969, and all eyes were on the Apollo 11 mission. Armstrong, Collins, and Aldrin were the trio representing humanity's efforts to land on the moon for the very first time. As they hurtled through the vastness of space in their command module, Aldrin saw something that would spark debates, inspire countless theories, and fuel the fires of our cosmic curiosity for decades to come. Peering out of the window, Aldrin caught sight of a peculiar object floating alongside them. It wasn't just a fleeting glimpse either. This thing was positively there, tangible, and very much real. The object wasn't a part of their spacecraft, nor was it any recognizable space debris. It moved in such a way that it seemed to be under some sort of control, rather than simply tumbling aimlessly. What made this sighting especially riveting was not just the mere existence of the object, but the caliber of the witness. Remember, Aldrin wasn't just an average Joe with a casual claim. He was an astronaut, a man of science, trained to observe and report with accuracy and precision. This was a man who had undergone countless hours of training, simulations, and tests to ensure that when the time came, he would be ready to document every aspect of the mission. Imagine being thousands of miles from Earth, in the great dark void of space, and seeing something unexplained right outside your window. The natural question that would pop into anyone's mind would be, what on Earth, or rather, what off Earth is that? This is what Aldrin and his crewmates must have wondered. To add to the plot, the astronauts on board Apollo 11 were hesitant to immediately inform Mission Control about the strange sighting. They first opted to inquire indirectly about the location of the stage of the Saturn V rocket they had detached from earlier. This was to ascertain if what Aldrin was observing could be this discarded component. The response confirmed that the stage in question was 6,000 miles away. So whatever Aldrin was watching was definitely not that. Speculation about the object was rife. Was it an optical illusion? A reflection of some internal piece of the spacecraft? Or, as many enthusiasts dared to ask, was it evidence of some other intelligent entity taking a keen interest in humanity's first journey to the moon? To make the event even more intriguing, this wasn't a narrative that Aldrin shied away from after returning to Earth. Instead, he spoke openly about it in interviews. He was transparent about what he saw, what he felt, and his own interpretations of the event. He was careful not to jump to conclusions, but was equally clear that he saw something genuinely unidentifiable. This account from the Apollo 11 mission serves as a potent reminder that space remains a vast, largely unexplored frontier. Even with our most advanced technology and our best trained minds at work, there's so much we don't know. Aldrin's encounter underscores the tantalizing possibility of countless mysteries lurking in the vast expanses, waiting for us to discover them. The object Aldrin saw has spurred many to dig deeper, to ask bigger questions about our universe and our place within it. It has inspired both seasoned scientists and armchair astronomers to keep their eyes on the skies and their minds open to the infinite possibilities that space presents. In the history of space exploration history, Apollo 11 stands out as a crowning achievement of human capability. Yet, it's this unexpected and unexplained twist that gives the tale a sprinkle of magic and wonder. But wait till you...
Well, Donald says, I gotta stop telling the temps here we'll have an immigration problem. I don't think you gotta worry about that too much. We got a immigration problem about as bad as it can get. So don't worry, they'll start spilling over into your area if they haven't already. So does anyone... Well, it was the other night that suggested that my suggestion that the moon is an artificially constructed satellite. They were suggesting that in the chat in another live stream. You know, well, that one that was kind of a crazy idea, and it had to do with when we were talking about Patrick Vaughn. That's all. For those who don't know, Patrick Vaughn makes some wild claims about Bigfoot. This guy has figured out the equation, according to him, and I don't think he understands exactly what an equation is, but but he calls it an equation. He's figured out how to observe the Sasquatch and something about the wood knocks, and he's seen Sasquatches getting their groove on and all this stuff. You know, was it over 30? I think Donald said what, 33 encounters. 33 encounters. Yeah, whatever, Patrick Vaughn. But anyway, and so the person in the chat was suggesting that it was crazy for me to suggest that the moon could be an artificial construction. The problem is we have some pretty significant evidence that it's artificial construction. It is made of a very resilient metal underneath all the dust and rocks. Titanium been found on the surface, so some degree of the titanium structure of the moon must have been pulverized on the surface by meteor impacts. We could see that there were meteor impacts, and one of the pieces of evidence that the moon is an artificial construction is that you have these craters that the craters are all the same depth. No matter how big around they are, they're the same depth. They only go so deep. Well, that's not possible on a natural moon. It's just not. It is not. This is pretty damn strong evidence that the moon is not a natural moon. Because whenever you have a large object hit, the bigger it's going to dig down so deep. into a planet, into a moon. That's not what we observe on the moon. What we observe on the moon is that no matter how big the crater is, the crater only goes down so deep. There's only so far it can go down, and so you have like some of the bigger craters. They're huge, but they are very, very shallow, and they shouldn't be that shallow unless there's an extreme. The moon is an artificially constructed object with an extremely resilient shell, which apparently incorporates some titanium, which they found on the moon. Donald says, I don't believe that the materials needed would be absurd. Yeah, the materials needed would be absurd, but apparently, because I'm not suggesting this was alien construction, I'm suggesting this was built by humans. And when we look at all of the stone structures all around the world, the Great Pyramid alone, it was some million plus. I don't know. It's a lot of freaking stones. It's a lot of stones, and they're really, really huge. And no one can properly explain how ancient man found it so easy to lift millions and millions and millions of massive stones that we would have an extremely hard time moving today with our technology. So apparently it wasn't a problem for them. So if that wasn't a problem for them, why would it be a problem for them to build a moon? And of course, we may not really, because we can't begin to understand the technology that those ancient people had in that ancient civilization that allowed them to build. I mean, that one jungle where they did the LiDAR scan, 60,000 structures are hidden in the jungle. These people were some building fools. They built a lot of stuff with huge stones, and were able to fit them to extremely tight tolerances. The technological ability of these people is insane. Whoever built this stuff, these stone structures on the surface. So what I'm suggesting is that is an indication of the kind of technology we're looking at. So when we look at the moon and you say the materials needed would be absurd, yeah, the materials would be absurd for us. But I don't think it would be absurd for those ancient people. Apparently, I mean, the stone structures alone on the surface is absurd. Like, there's no way we're going to waste the amount of money it would take to build just one Great Pyramid. These people built pyramids all over the place, and all kinds of other stone structures, millions and millions and millions of gigantic rocks, very precisely fitted. In a lot of cases, it's just insane how tightly fitted they are, how precise they are. Whoever had that technical capability, it would appear it was not beyond them to have the technical ability to acquire all the resources they need, all the materials they would need to build a moon. And exhibit one for that, to argue for that, is that the moon is there. The moon is there. And the evidence that we've seen that we have about the moon being artificial, I think at this point is really conclusive. There's no way, there is absolutely no way that you have craters of all these vast differences in diameter, but they never go below a certain depth. They never get any deeper than a certain depth. huge craters, very, very shallow, and they shouldn't be that shallow. And that's without fail across the entire surface of the moon. The only way to explain that is that there's an extremely tough metal shell underneath all that dust and rock on the surface. Another thing is the Apollo, I think it was 12 experiment, where they used seismometers to record the vibrations caused by impacting the surface of the moon with, I think they used like a lander they were done with. And they just dropped the lander and recorded the vibrations. And what they would describe was that the moon rang like a bell for a really long time. It just rang, you know, and yeah, you're gonna get that kind of reaction out of metal, right? A hollow metal sphere. Another thing is the measurements they've made of the moon's density. The density is way too low. It shouldn't be as low as it is, but it is. So, of course, that results in also the gravity is too low for the size of the moon. You look how big it is, and like, this thing is awful big to have gravity that low. It's huge. It's just too big for the amount of gravity it has and for the density it has. It rang like a bell. The craters are too shallow. I mean, what more do we need at this point? That thing is not a natural satellite. It just can't be with that. With all those pieces of evidence, it cannot be a natural satellite. Now, another thing that I find not entirely, it's not by itself, it's nothing really, I think. Because they'll just say, well, the moon's tidally locked. Well, fine. I mean, you can say that, but based on how many moons have we observed up close, right? I mean, we've only looked at the one. So they can come up with whatever, because scientists have been, trying to explain why it is that only one side of the moon always faces the Earth. So the moon rotates exactly once every time it circles the Earth. Exactly once. And I mean, it could be because think about the moon. The moon rotates 365.25 times every time it circles the sun. So we're all time spinning as we go around the sun. Most observed planets and moons, that's how they behave. So you're going to see every surface of the. If you were on the sun, you're looking over at the Earth, you would see every surface of the Earth 365 times in a year. That's not the case with the moon. The moon, you only see the one side. The moon, in order for that to happen, every time the moon circles, it has to rotate exactly once, not 1.1 times, not 0.95 times, not 2 times, not 365 times, not a half a turn. None of that. It has to be exactly one. It's precise. So, whereas I wouldn't look at that by itself as meaning anything, but in conjunction with the crater depth issue, the ringing like a bell Apollo experiment, the low density measurements, the gravity being too low, add all that to it, it tells me that there's something going on where they wanted, when they built that, for whatever reason, they wanted to always have that one side facing the Earth. Of course, a lot of people, they don't want to believe this. They're from Missouri. Missouri says, "Show me state," right? But those bits of evidence right there should be enough for most people to say, "Look, yeah, that's somebody built that." You can't have those shallow craters and have the moon be a natural moon. It can't be. It just can't. You add the other stuff, the low density and all that, man, it's just not. It's an artificial satellite. Maybe George Lucas was trying to tell us something with his Death Star. I don't think the moon was a Death Star, but I think the people who built the moon might have been thinking along the lines as what my thoughts were over 20 years ago, before I even really knew all that stuff about the moon, before I knew that the moon was probably a hollow, artificially constructed satellite. Where online had, was talking with people and discussing, what humanity needs to do to survive. And of course, there was always people that would argue against different stuff for some absolutely ridiculous reasons sometimes. Like, there's a segment of the population. Let's say we built a big spaceship and so that we could leave the Earth in case the Earth was about to be destroyed. There's a segment of the population that would want to somehow force us to stay here and die with the rest of the world. That they're out there. They wouldn't want to save humanity for different reasons, But some of them would feel like maybe we're escaping divine judgment or some nonsense like that. It's just ridiculous that some of the stuff. The project that I was discussing was so huge that it would require so much materials, like you mentioned there, to build, that it would take generations to build. But with our current technology, it would probably take us 1,000 years to build it. But we can build it. We can build it. We could find enough materials to build it, and we could build it. And basically, it was something. I never did set a particular size, but very huge, as big as potentially as big as the moon. I called it the spear ship or the Salisbury spear. Went back and forth between names for it. And what it was meant to be was a way to evacuate the entire population of Earth in case of a disaster that we could not stop. Say an asteroid is heading towards Earth, a very large one, and we just can't stop it. It's just too big. But luckily, some yahoo named Salisbury started a program 1,000 years earlier, building a gigantic spaceship that was capable of transporting the entire population of Earth and taking us somewhere else if we needed to go. And there was lots of discussion of what the design would be, and it was called a sphere ship because it was shaped like a sphere. It was shaped like a sphere for a reason. It's the strongest shape, right? If you're going to be moving this thing through space and occasionally get hit by an asteroid, you would need a spherical shell around it, and it would need made out of some extremely tough materials. But the people. So, what if these ancient people decided to build something similar? What if this moon is exactly what I was talking about 20 years ago? 22, 23 years ago, something like that. What if it was? What if that is what they did, and they were, because these people, this advanced civilization, could have potentially existed for thousands of years. We don't really know. All we know is there's ancient structures on the surface of the planet that are way older than what they're supposed to be according to mainstream archaeology. And you got those people, the ancient alien types, who want so badly to believe aliens have come to Earth. And so they fall for that Ancient Aliens TV show crap. Well, the Ancient Aliens TV show doesn't show one tiny bit of evidence that aliens were here in ancient times. They don't show one piece of evidence that shows aliens here. All they show is a evidence that somebody built all this stuff. Somebody built advanced stuff thousands of years ago. Stuff so advanced that we really couldn't pull it off today. There's no way we could pull this shit off. The stones are too big, too precise. There's too many. So Donald says, I think Lockbeard is losing it. He's starting to sound like a group that was waiting for the ship to arrive. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, people. No, I don't think I'm losing it. I mean, I just go off of evidence, and the evidence shows that the moon can't be a natural satellite. So, you know, since that's what the evidence shows, then now we have to ask ourselves, you know, why did they really not go to the moon for all these decades? Supposedly they went there, and Buzz Aldrin seems to be indicating that something weird went down up there. And and then we haven't gone back for years, and only now are people wanting to go back. So I'm wondering if inside the moon, because this would mean, yes, that the moon is hollow. It's a space station. It's a hollow space station, or potentially a ship. I don't know, but the artificial construction, absolutely, it has to be with those pieces of evidence I mentioned a while ago. So have we not been allowed to go back until now, and only now they're letting us go back because I'm assuming that the people are there, the humans, the ancient human civilization that built all this stuff on the surface of the planet, probably still up there. And maybe that's what happened. We landed, they said, get the hell out, and so on and so forth. And maybe only now we've been able to negotiate permission to come back. And I don't know. If you recall, Ingo Swann, the remote viewer who talked about when he worked for the government, and he said they asked him to remote view the moon, and he went there and there were people there. He said there was people on the moon. Assuming all that's true, right? Assuming all that's true. Theoretically, it should be perfectly possible to remote view, but that's a whole nother show. So yeah, I think that this is there's no explaining this, right? We got to the moon decades ago, and then we just haven't gone back since. There's no, that does not compute. It doesn't make any sense. Why would we not be back on the moon? There's more samples to be taken. There's a moon station that should have been built, you know, for scientists to be able to come up more and more often as the technology gets more effective at getting people to the moon and back. But we didn't do any of that. We just stopped going to the moon. That alone would seem to indicate something very, very strange is going on with the moon. And I think that it's probably a good indication that what Ingo Swann was exactly correct. And what I just suggested is exactly correct, is that those ancient people, they built the moon as a place to evacuate their civilization, or maybe it was just to augment their civilization. It was, we need a big fucking we need a big space station up there. Why not, right? We got control of gravity. They had to have had control over gravity, right? Of course, that's something that a lot of people are like, you're crazy. Anti-gravity? Yeah, anti-gravity. Perfectly possible technology to develop. We just ain't got there yet. Well, as far as we know, the government may have some anti-gravity technology, but anti-gravity, really, there's nothing to prevent that from occurring. If you go over to Theoria Hypothesis channel, Ken Wheeler will show you. So there's some videos where he shows you some devices that he has. They're very simple devices that do have the ability to cancel out some of the gravitational pull. So anyway, this is part of what would be, because some people try to say with like the pyramids of, oh well, they dammed up the Nile and they floated those stones into place. Okay, fine. You could say that about the Great Pyramid, perhaps, but you can't say that about some of the stone structures in other places where it would have been absolutely impossible to dam up any kind of water to reach up to the elevations in the mountains that some of these stone structures are built. It's just not possible. For anyone to suggest that a bunch of sleighs with ropes and ramps and rollers pull that shit off is insane. The only way they would do this is if it was easy for them to do, because they had control over gravity. They could cancel out gravity. But that right there sounds like hocus pocus to a lot of people, so I don't know. All I can say is go to Theoria Hypothesis channel and try to find some of the videos where he tries to explain to you how gravity can be counteracted and so on and so forth. And maybe, but that's kind of going to some degree, you're going to need to have some kind of grasp on the science that he's trying to teach. And you're going to have to let go of the science that you learned that has flaws in it. Quantum, and anything that has the word quantum, throw it out the window. Throw it out the window. Einstein, toss him out the window. Before anyone else mentions Einstein or talks about any kind of Einstein science, you need to check out one of the books that talks about how Einstein stole a whole bunch of his ideas, and he's a plagiarist. And then how he didn't, there's certain shit he didn't figure out, right? He didn't figure out grand unification. The reason why he didn't figure out grand unification is because he was wrong about some shit. He cut out a couple of random puzzle pieces, but didn't make sure they could fit together, and they can't. He called he called entanglement, I guess. He called it quantum entanglement, but he called it spooky action in a distance, but it's because it was spooky to him. He couldn't explain that shit. He had a speed limit on the universe. Well, spooky action in a distance is unlimited speed, infinite speed. It's not limited by the speed of light. It's instantaneous communication of information across any distance in the universe. Mainstream science knows that happens, but they don't understand it. Well, if you want to understand it, go over to Theoria Hypothesis channel. He explains the science. It's going to take you a while to figure that out. But and then even then, a lot of people, they might not ever quite grasp what's going on there. I can do it. I can do the demonstration though, and maybe it makes sense to maybe it doesn't. Let me see. There's different types of waves. Well, one you have to understand, because someone, I made a comment, I was making a joke with this person about comparing light to sound and about the medium and stuff like that. And this person this person proceeded to say, what did they say? Light is an electromagnetic wave, so it doesn't need a medium. Well, that's total bullshit. That's bullshit. Every wave needs a medium to pass through. It's just that, you know, sound can pass through, you know, air and water and dirt and rock. It can pass through different mediums. So, but what people don't understand, because they don't see they don't know enough about how light behaves to really, because they see light passing through space, right? As far, well, no one on the surface of the planet's up there actually see it happen. They're like, oh, see, light doesn't need any medium to pass. Yes, it does. It's called the ether. The ancients knew about it. Modern science tries to reject it, and then every time they run across some data that indicates that there is something there, they have to invent some kind of bullshit to make it work. So they come up with bullshit like space time. Two things that are nothing, right? Time isn't a thing, and space is nothing. It doesn't, you know, they're not a thing. So they put them together and make them think there's a fabric of space time, and that's fucking moronic. That's dumb as hell. Or they'll come up with different shit, quantum foam, dark matter, dark energy, all this bullshit. And it's all mainstream science trying to get away with, trying to act like they actually knew what they were talking about, instead of admitting to the public that they were wrong and they need to go back to the drawing board. They need to kick Einstein to the curb and then go, you know, grab them some Nikola Tesla and some Steinmetz and Heaviside and all of them, Maxwell, some real scientists. But anyway, so there's the ether. Light is affected by other mediums, just like, you know, sound travels differently through water than it does through dirt, that it does through air. Light's no different, and it's well, one, like the experiments with glass, right, prove that light is it's not, it doesn't have a speed. Light doesn't have a speed. So the whole idea that there's a speed of light is inaccurate. It's an inaccurate interpretation of the observations. It's a rate of induction. So when they've done experiments, when they've measured, you know, how fast light is going through, you know, when it's going through air, and then it passes in the glass, and then it exits the glass and goes back to air again. The light slows down while it's passing through the glass, but then it speeds up after it exits the glass back in the air again. Why does it speed up? Right? It's a violation of their own laws of physics. They violate it, and they just let's just don't nobody pay too much attention to that. But anyway, different waves, because you're used to waves in the water. You know, you see this cool. Yeah, and as you are aware, a lot of waves, that's how they travel. You know,
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Dumbass. I killed. All right, but so that's how certain waves travel. But then you have the other type of waves. where it doesn't move like that. It just moves like this. So when I'm in a normal way, when I do something over here, it affects this wire. That wave travels through the wire, but it takes time for that wave to move. The other type of wave, when you pull on one end or push on one end, whichever way you want to look at it, the other end of it moves instantaneously. There's no time required for the other end to move. And that's how instantaneous action at distance works. Einstein really, it's really fucking simple, but it has to move through a medium, and it's called the ether. But Einstein didn't understand. That's why he called it spooky action at distance, and that's why nobody paid attention to Einstein. In addition to the fact that he plagiarized a bunch of shit. So yeah. So to really, that was a really simplistic explanation. Like, if you want to really dive down the rabbit hole of this science, you can go over, because the only person on the planet that I'm aware of that's been trying to explain this to people is Ken Wheeler. So you go over, he's got thousands of videos on his channel, and if you spend enough time over there, maybe eventually you'll pick up the science of how the universe actually works without quantum, without the broken, because they're like, oh, we're trying to achieve grand unification, and they never can. They never can. They can't achieve grand unification because they're wrong. They've created puzzle pieces that don't fit together, and they're like, oh, we just got to come up with another equation or some other experiment or theory. And if you create a science that's so broken that you can't fit the pieces together, you fucked up and need to go back to the drawing board. Because why did you even accept that at any level when it was broken as fuck from the start? But I'm probably beating my head against the wall, because we're in a civilization at this point where most people are listening to some douchebag like Neil deGrasse Tyson over here, who can't figure out the difference between a man and a woman. And they're listening to him about astrophysics and shit. Everybody should scrap Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a moron. He's operating off the mainstream bullshit science that has all kinds of mistakes. So, see, we got some activity in the chat. Donald said maybe ask Cryptid Huntress. No, I ain't talking to no Cryptid Huntress. I ain't talking to no Cryptid Huntress. We don't need her, do we?
Look like a tasty teenage boy.
Donald says there's a lot of mysteries out there. Maybe the Mooners blew up Russia's lunar lander recently. I don't know, but something very, very strange is going on with the moon, and so, because we've been looking at the stuff going on with the government admitting that UFOs exist, and we basically know now that they have some UFOs in possession. The government has, and that they're reverse engineering and possibly using this reverse engineered technology to do all kinds of evil shit. And maybe the government has gotten too big for their britches at this point, and they think they can just go back to the moon and tell those people to go fuck themselves. I have a feeling we're about to get our asses handed to us by a human civilization that lives inside the moon that's gonna not put up with any bullshit. And I hope they don't. I hope they don't. Maybe they're spooked because they don't think they have the ability to stop all the nukes that we could fire at them. Maybe they're under threat. You know, nukes might be a little bit of a problem if they start shooting them at the moon. That would be crazy to do. But with our government and their desire to control every damn thing, I guarantee you that the people, because people that thirst for power like that, they cannot stand not having something under their thumb. They want every single person under their control because they have a mental illness, a sickness that they want to control every damn thing. They can't just leave you the fuck alone. And that's what most of us just want. We just want to be left the hell alone. But we got a government that won't do that. And so if this ancient human civilization survived the Younger Dryas impact 13,000 years ago, and they just continued to live their lives up inside the moon, the artificially constructed space station that we call the moon. Well, if they're up there, the government, our government would not be able to just accept that. They're like, oh, these people, we got to have control of these people. We need to take possession of the moon. And I'm like, no, they don't need, whoever built that moon, whatever technology's inside that moon, I don't want our government to have it. I'm sorry. They've shown that they will do great evil with what technologies they have, and they should not be allowed to have any more technology. In fact, the people on the moon, would you please, for the freedom of the people on Earth, could you please obliterate our government? I think you can do it. I think you got the technology. Obliterate them. We need to hit the reset button on the Constitution. We don't need to have nukes. Nukes are stupid. I know this. A lot of other citizens know this. Mutually assured destruction is no way to be. I mean, if two nations got a legitimate beef, meet on the battlefield with swords like real men. Drones and all this shit, and weapons we're not even supposed to be using that they're using right now. Cluster bombs, depleted uranium, shit like that. That's just evil. Some of that stuff's just evil. I mean, humans gotta fight. We gotta have war. But when you can just nuke an entire city full of women and children, like our government did to Japan, that's no longer a fair fight. That's no longer. Those are what Jane Cobb say in Firefly. Those aren't kosher. Those aren't kosherized rules. It's not cool. It's not right. It's not fair. Using like depleted uranium. So when you use such weaponry, that area is got radioactivity as a result. I mean, what kind of absolute asshole, what kind of moron uses such a weapon? And that's not even the full-blown nuke. Jesus Christ. And our government used it after they kind of wedged their way to participate in World War II. We should have never been involved in World War II. Hitler would have run out of steam. I mean, he proved that he ain't, trying to pick fight with too many people over there. Although that might have been by design. Yeah, we gotta get all our countries involved. We need to thin out the herd. We need to kill as many people as possible. That's what they do. So I hope this technology, this technologically advanced civilization is living up there inside the moon, and I hope that they are sitting up there right now, saying, "Look, we got to do something about this. There's people suffering all over the world, people dying, and we tried to mind our own business, but these assholes are trying to send spaceships up here to the moon again, and they're just too fucking evil. We need to do something." I welcome it. Please, we need assistance because the American people, we want to be free, and our government is corrupted and it's not legit anymore. They fixed the elections, and our freedom is gone. So please come help us. We need somebody because they got all this technology and endless money. They just create money out of nowhere and do whatever they want. And so we need some kind of intervention. And I'm not holding out hope for no divine intervention. So pretty soon they're going to be forcibly injecting us with stuff. Maybe they tell you, well, for the good of the earth, you need to be euthanized by age 60 because of global warming or some bullshit like that. They'll start. There are those out there trying to scheme some kind of bullshit like that. Uncle Mom says, "I can't find my flaming skeleton. Depressed. Freedom of speech 6 is Sleeping Beauty. Welcome." Donald says Einstein wasn't that brilliant. Nope. Freedom of speech says feed keeps pausing. I hate technology. Why did you call yourself Freedom of Speech instead of Sleeping Beauty? You could have been Sleeping Beauty 6 or whatever. Donald says a 2-year-old can explain the difference. I don't know which difference you're talking about. Donald says weapons are getting crazy. The bank wouldn't give me the loan for my military grade drone tech. Yeah. How are we supposed to fight? Because people talk about, well, Second Amendment, blah blah blah. We can fight, but at the end of the day, no, we can't fight these people. They can kill us all. And I think they're trying to gear for that. They're hoping that we get so unruly that they can justify rolling out some tanks on our asses and just start killing Americans. And some people might say, well, they'd never do that. It's like, oh, yeah, tell that to the people at Waco, man. They burned a bunch of 80 women and children. They just burned them alive. And they rolled out some military-looking equipment for that shit. And then let's not forget the biggest one, the big one, the Civil War, where the Union government, the United States government, fought the people who didn't want to be part of it anymore. They should have had the right. If the founding fathers were there, they would have said, look, they have a right to leave the Union because the Union is no longer working for them. You're trying to dominate them and rule them, and you're not supposed to do that. The federal government's not supposed to do that. So if the federal, and that whole situation was evidence of this, right? The federal government should have said, look, we understand. To the South, they should have said, we understand. We're sorry that we failed. Can we talk about peaceful relations? trade negotiations, stuff like that, going forward. And then probably the federal government, everybody should have resigned. They should have resigned if they were really real Americans doing the job of what that they're supposed to be done. I mean, obviously they weren't, because they pissed off the southern states to the point that they had to leave. They had to leave the union. The union government's supposed to work for the nation states that are members of this union. People forget we're a union. The United States is not my nation. My nation is Oklahoma. Okay, my nation is Oklahoma. It is part of a union, just like all those nations over there are part of the European Union in Europe. It's a union, and you can goddamn leave. And you should be allowed to leave. But our government proved that they had turned into a tyranny 180 freaking years ago. This government has not been the legit government of the United States for 170, 180 years or so. They have no right to have any kind of power over us at all. They have no right to be. That government should be completely dismantled, ideally, and replaced with new people who follow the Constitution and try to start over. I don't think it'll work anyway, because corrupt people will always try to get into government, and they'll screw it up all over again. So we need some outside intervention is what we need, because we're not going to be able to do anything. They'll come at us with tanks, fighter jets, drones. Heck, they might even nuke a couple places. Freedom of Speech 6 says can't figure it out. Automatically put in freedom of speech. Yeah, you can't change it. I don't know how you automatically got freedom of speech, but you can't change it. That for whatever reason they don't let you change your name on Rumble, so you're stuck with it unless you make a totally different account. And just be careful what you name stuff. Rumble has its flaws, but it does have freedom of speech. So at least it seems to be mostly protected. On some people's live streams, they got freaking mods that are perfectly happy to censor what you say. And they're on people's live streams who are supposedly free speech advocates. They're allowing censorship of free speech in their chats. Russell Brand, for example. There is censorship of free speech in the chat on Russell Brand's channel on his live streams. Well, that's not right. Donald says not a bad name. Yeah, but she's like, she pick a name. Pick one. Pick a name. Are you Sleeping Beauty or Freedom of Speech 6? Pick a name. See, on YouTube, I'm LOCKBEARD, and on Rumble, I'm LOCKBEARD. So, yeah. So we got some more on the video for the Buzz Aldrin video here.
Unexpected and unexplained twist that gives the tale a sprinkle of magic and wonder. But wait till you hear Aldrin's other assertions on the cosmos. We are not alone in this vast universe. When you pause and consider the staggering vastness of the universe, it becomes almost absurd to think that Earth is the only haven for life. Think about it. There are billions of galaxies, each teeming with billions of stars, and around those stars orbit untold numbers of planets. Aldrin firmly emphasizes this point. The idea of Earth being a unique cosmic anomaly becomes minuscule when faced with such vastness. How can we, in our one tiny corner of the Milky Way, possibly be the only thinking beings? Aldrin has never been one to shy away from the monumental. This is a man who, along with Neil Armstrong, made the giant leap for mankind onto the lunar surface. His feet touched alien soil long before most of us were even contemplating the prospects of alien neighbors. It's this first-hand experience that gives weight to his beliefs. If humans can tread upon our moon, then why wouldn't other life forms be gazing at their moons and stars, thinking of the endless possibilities, just like us? Buzz's fervor for space exploration and his commitment to deepening our understanding of the cosmos is unmistakable. He's lived and breathed the alien, the otherworldly, the cosmic unknowns, and emerged with a conviction that echoes through the very fabric of space-time. We are not the only ones here. Now let's dive deeper into this cosmic perspective. Imagine a vast ocean teeming with different species, from the smallest plankton to the giant blue whale. If Earth was a single drop in this ocean, wouldn't it be preposterous to assume that life existed only in that one drop? The wonders of the universe are truly beyond comprehension. But every day, our scientists and astronomers are making discoveries that push the boundaries of our understanding. Exoplanets are being discovered at an exhilarating rate, many of which are located within the Goldilocks zone, that magical region around a star where conditions might just be right for life as we know it. If that doesn't fire up your imagination, consider this. These are just the planets we've found. There are surely countless more out there, waiting to be discovered, potentially teeming with life. Aldrin's assertions also come with a subtle but compelling challenge. He's urging humanity to continue its cosmic journey. His belief in extraterrestrial life is more than just an assertion. It's a clarion call for continued exploration. It's a beckoning towards a future where interstellar travel isn't just the stuff of science fiction, but a tangible reality. Imagine the civilizations we could meet, the cultures we could immerse ourselves in, and the cosmic mysteries we could finally unravel. Beyond just the potential of biological entities, think of the forms that extraterrestrial life could take. Silicon-based beings, gas giants with floating sentient forms, or even beings of pure energy. The universe is a playground of endless potential, and Aldrin's conviction is a testament to the boundless possibilities that lie in wait. While skeptics might argue that there's no concrete evidence of extraterrestrial life, Aldrin's perspective is grounded in probability and optimism. It's a reminder to always keep an open mind and to let curiosity be our guide. The vastness of the universe, combined with the exciting discoveries of exoplanets and the mysteries they hold, make the notion of life beyond Earth not just plausible, but highly likely. Life on the moon is a fascinating topic that has intrigued scientists and explorers for centuries. But how could life have originated or arrived on the moon? Life as we know it requires some basic conditions, such as liquid water, organic molecules, energy sources, and suitable temperatures. The moon is a very harsh and barren place for life. It has no atmosphere, no magnetic field, no plate tectonics, and no volcanic activity. It is exposed to extreme temperatures, ranging from minus 173 degrees Celsius or minus 279 degrees Fahrenheit at night, to 127 degrees Celsius or 261 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. It is also bombarded by cosmic rays, solar wind, and meteorites. The moon has very little water, mostly in the form of ice in permanently shadowed craters near the poles. The moon also has very low gravity, only about 1/6 of Earth's. Given these conditions, it is very unlikely that life could have originated on the moon by itself. The moon lacks the essential ingredients and processes that are needed for life to emerge and evolve. However, this does not mean that life could not have arrived on the moon from somewhere else. There are two possible ways that life could have been transported to the moon: panspermia and human activity. Panspermia is the hypothesis that life can be spread throughout the universe by natural means, such as asteroids, comets, or interstellar dust. According to this idea, life could have originated on Earth or another planet and then been carried by space rocks to other worlds, including the moon. Some scientists have suggested that some of the lunar rocks brought back by the Apollo missions may contain traces of microbial life from Earth or Mars. However, this hypothesis is very speculative and controversial, and there is no conclusive evidence to support it. Human activity is another possible way that life could have reached the moon. Humans have been sending spacecraft and landers to the moon since the 1950s, some of which may have carried biological contaminants or experiments. For example, in 2019, an Israeli spacecraft called Bereshit crashed on the moon with a payload that included thousands of tardigrades, microscopic animals that can survive extreme conditions. Some scientists have speculated that these tardigrades may still be alive on the moon, but this is also uncertain and disputed. If there is any life on the moon, it would have to be very simple and resilient, such as bacteria or fungi. It would also have to
Yep. Um, Donald's got 13 names on YouTube. Do you? Yeah, but you're using those for sneaky purposes. That's different. Never know who's sneaking around on YouTube. Who's really Donald? Never know. So I don't know. The assertion that there's probably life elsewhere in the universe is not that spectacular. So I don't know why in that video they acted like it was that big of a deal. I think we all pretty much know. Well, most people probably know that that life probably exists everywhere in the universe on one level or another. Sleeping Beauty says, wonder if we've ever really been to the moon. Yeah, we've really been to the moon. That's a whole conspiracy thing, and it don't hold water. So it don't hold water. In fact, I don't know what all objects we put on the moon that are visible from Earth with a really good telescope. And reflectors, I guess there's some reflectors up there that they put there. Stuff like that. So don't don't fall for that particular theory. Yeah, it's strange, it's strange because some of the people that believe in that theory or that hypothesis or that tinfoil hat conspiracy theory reject what I say about the moon, what we were talking about earlier, that the moon is not a natural moon, that ancient humans built that moon. And they think that's crazy. And we already talked about the evidence that shows that it has to be artificially constructed. It can't be a natural moon. It's covered in dirt and rocks, right? It's been hit by a bunch of asteroids over thousands of years. But it still has to be artificial. Underneath all that dirt and rocks, it's a spherical metal space station. So I mean, we need more evidence, obviously, but the evidence that we got so far strongly indicates that, and it just cannot be a natural moon. And so that's the thing, and that whole idea is just so incredible to people in our society because they know that we couldn't build it. Like we would now we could if we put all of our efforts into it and we're willing to spare no expense, and it would be hard and it would take 1,000 years or more to build it, but we probably will never do such a thing because it would be so expensive and so time consuming. But that's the same reason why we would never build the Great Pyramid, right? The Great Pyramid, million stones, extremely huge stones that we would have a hard time moving with our technology we have today. They're so big. and it would take an extremely long time. And that's just the Great Pyramid. There are thousands of stone structures around the world that the ancients built that are made with impossibly huge stones that are so perfectly fitted together that we would have an extremely hard time pulling that off today with our technology. All of these things indicating that the ancient people were more technologically advanced than we are today. I mean, I don't know how anyone could deny that at this point. There's no way we could pull off building the civilization that we have dug up. We couldn't pull that off today. It just wouldn't work. With all of our technology that we have, and with a worldwide system of resources and resource acquisition, and this is as good as it gets, right? We would never build those stone structures like the ancient people did, because it'd be too damn hard, too damn time consuming, too damn expensive. With our vast civilization, we just can't do it. But the ancients did, and the ancients did because there's no other conclusion you can come to, is that they had to have had extremely advanced technology that surpasses ours. They were beyond us. In the and they're not aliens. Again, people. So a lot of people like to think they like this fantasy world of ancient aliens, fantasy world, where they can't wrap their mind around the idea that humans could have ever done that by themselves back then. But these people aren't giving it any thought to they're not giving any thought to the idea that humans could have had a more advanced civilization in the past. They can't get their mind there, because they've had archaeologists telling them all these years that humans started out, here, and then they got a little better and a little better and a little better until they got to here, to where we're at. Well, that doesn't have to be what the case is. What the case could be is that a civilization rose, got very technologically advanced, and then got its dick knocked in the dirt, sent straight back to the Stone Age, and that we're starting to get advanced again, and we have not gotten as advanced as those ancient people were. And that's the one civilization that there could have been more. There could have been civilization could have risen and fallen over and over and over again for 100,000 years, dozens of times for all we know. But it's all been washed away. It's all been eroded away. A lot of it's under the ocean. So this is the thing. I'm trying to get people to wrap their mind around. But it's just things that it doesn't compute for people, and trying to get people to wrap their minds around what I'm saying here, and that it's real, and it's humans were once more advanced than we are now. That's the only way they built those thousands and thousands of stone structures with stones that are just impossibly big. They had anti-gravity technology. That's the only way they could have done this. They weren't doing this with ropes and ramps and rollers and 1,000 slaves and all that shit. That's not how it worked. And so once you can wrap your mind around that idea that humans used to be way more advanced than we are today, that civilization got their dick knocked in the dirt, and now we're starting to come back, but we haven't gotten all the way back. We ain't got it all back. Once you wrap your mind around that, then you can start to maybe start thinking about the moon thing. Well, if those people were more advanced than we are, then maybe building the moon is not as big a deal as it is to us. Because when we're talking about moving those stones, we're talking about control over gravity. So if they had control over gravity, well, that solves one big problem: getting all that material to build the moon into orbit. Well, gravity was just not that much of a problem. And if they had control over gravity, they may have had control over other technologies that made refining metals far easier. Mining, all that stuff could have been far easier. So that's what people need to get their minds wrapped around, that, because if you're thinking like you're someone in our civilization and you're thinking about what we could do, and you're looking at these things, you're like, this is impossible. Yeah, it's impossible for us. Although I don't believe it's totally impossible, but it would just be insanely costly and insanely time consuming. But anyway, so that's, I don't know what else to tell people. The craters are a smoking gun. You can't have a crater that's that wide and only that deep. It has to be deeper. But when you look at the fact that all of the craters on the moon only go down to a certain depth, and it's a very shallow depth. It's not what we see on Earth. What's the deal? Well, the deal has to do with that titanium that they found up there. It's like, I don't remember what it's a very high amount of titanium present on the surface of the moon. I think it's higher than any place on Earth. Well, there ain't no explaining that shit away either, other than the moon is a spherical space station, and one of the materials it's built out of is titanium, which would make sense because it'd have to be really tough, and titanium is a pretty tough metal. And that some of that titanium has gotten pulverized over the thousands of years that the moon has been up there, getting impacted by asteroids. Because it's not going to be, it ain't like it's going to come out perfectly shiny after an asteroid hits it. The asteroid hits it, it's going to fuck up the surface of that shell, that metal shell. They built it strong enough to handle a lot of freaking impacts, and it's done its job. But you can't avoid having some of the surface of that shell pulverized by asteroids when they hit. So when they brought back, lunar dust samples, they come back with this extremely high amount of titanium. Well, please try to explain that away. Explain why the Apollo mission experiment caused the moon to ring like a bell on the seismometers. Explain why the craters are all shallow, way too shallow. Explain the high titanium levels on the surface. Explain the low density of the measurement of the moon. You can't have all that. You can't have all that and still believe that the moon is a natural moon. It just absolutely is not a natural moon if you got all that stuff. It just isn't. So whether people can wrap their mind around that or not, that's, you know, it's your business. But once you understand that that's what the evidence shows, then you can start to wrap your mind around why we've been kind of keeping our hands off the moon. Probably because the people that live inside the damn thing told us to go fuck ourselves. The people that were technologically advanced enough to build that moon have the ability to tell us to go fuck ourselves, and there probably isn't much that we can do about it. So. Where are we at in the chat here? Donald says, now that Dad's passed, I'll be taking his home-built telescope to observe the moon. Awesome, man. You'll be able to see some shit. A lot of people should take a closer look at the moon. I mean, they ignore it. Most people are just kind of ignoring it. So it's good you're going to observe it more. Uncle Bones says Lockbeard Indian hieroglyphs show flying machines and atomic bombs war, and their sites need to trace the nuclear devastation. Yeah, you're talking about the ancient civilization, which I can't remember the age. It's way old, and it's one of those places. That place in India, the Indus Valley, I think was it the Indus Valley. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I know what you talk about. Way too advanced for its time, and it's one of those places that throws a big monkey wrench into the claim of archaeologists that we were not that advanced at that time. Well, yes, we were. So they screwed it up. Lady of the Wood says that would be a wonderful way to remember your dad, Donald. Welcome to the chat, lady. Donald says again, I have to disagree with you. How deep have they gone hitting the Earth? And the material from the asteroid will fill the crater, and asteroids have titanium in them. Yeah, but the just look into the craters of the moon. It take a while to kind of, but yeah, sometimes asteroids can have titanium in them, but that's true on the surface of the Earth too. In fact, the Earth is sitting right here next to the moon, so you would expect to see the same situation in general as far as what we've acquired on the surface, as far as metals like titanium in the asteroids, and the and if I recall, I don't remember exactly, but as I recall, the amount of titanium in that lunar sample was just just insanely high compared to like any place on Earth. I think it was higher than almost any place on Earth. I think there might have been an exception, which was like a titanium mine, which wasn't deposited by an asteroid. It was just is a mineral deposit of titanium. As I recall, I'd have to look that back up again. It's been a long time since I looked at stuff. But all the moon's craters are way too shallow for how big around how big they are, how big of an object impacted them. They should be way deeper. You really ought to look into the crater situation, and look into the mission where they impacted and caused the seismometers showed the moon ringing like a bell for an exceptionally long time. You wouldn't expect that unless you actually hit a bell, right? Well, the hollow metallic moon would, I would guess, make a similar situation occur. And Uncle Bone says, Donald, please give some shots with your phone and chair. Walking the woods. Have to get my brother to help me with quite large. Okay, what says Lockbeard is talking his manufactured moon theory out for a spin. It's taking his, yeah, because it kind of came up the other night. I think it was you that brought it up. But also, we just watched the video where Buzz Aldrin's talking about the moon stuff, and then about talking about how we've been kind of avoiding the moon, and it don't make any sense that we've avoided the moon. But yeah, you can't have the shallow craters. You can't have the ringing like a bell experiment. You can't have the exceptionally high level of titanium. You can't have the low density of the moon. The moon has the density is too low. Well, that's explained by it being hollow, right? That would make its density lower. So all those things together, added together, moon is manufactured. Somebody built it. Somebody built it. It can't be a natural satellite. It can't be a natural moon. Donald says, sorry, I'll say the channel name. It's so long. A Walk in the Woods. Yeah, she does have a long name. She's lady. She's lady in the woods. Why aren't you lady in the woods here? Why aren't you lady in the woods on Rumble? You're confusing us. You should be lady in the woods here as well.
Hello, lady.
Lady says, yes, I did. A question your conclusions, but your theory is interesting. Well, look at all those lines of evidence, and you might not question it anymore. Look, just go down that rabbit hole. You'll see. It's all public information. Just call me Mary, or it was taken. Lady in the Woods was taken. That's insane. See, that's another thing I don't like about Rumble. On YouTube, you know, 1,000 people can all have the same name. So, you know. Lady works too. We were over at Pat's, weren't we? We were in Pat's. Pat hasn't been live streaming regular for quite a while. Dang it. This is why I need to get a better setup where I'm not outdoors struggling. And just get up or have a proper studio and then start having guests as a regular thing. And then, you know, maybe we grab Pat every so often or invite him to come on. Or Matt over at Florida. You know, he hasn't been doing a regular live stream on he used to do 8:00 Saturday nights, and he stopped doing it regular. Comes on every so often, so you know, maybe we send out an invite and start doing guests and stuff. But I really need to have better set up before I can start doing that kind of stuff. My internet is just too wonky. My computer is too wonky. The temperature extremes fuck with the computer too much. It's just all too much of a mess, and I can't be having people come on and then have a bunch of bullshit like that going on. It's just not. It'd just be rude. Lady says, I have to get past the first question, Lockbeard. Why? Why would someone build a satellite to the Earth? Well, I mean, we could ask that about a lot of stuff. Like, why would someone build the Great Pyramid? You know, right now they don't even know why they built that. some archaeologists try to say, oh, it was a tomb, except they've never found a mummy in any pyramid ever. That there's zero evidence that those things are tombs. They're not tombs. Something else is going on, and they were built for some reason. So the why, like, we don't understand, and that's what I'm trying to tell people, is you're thinking in terms of our civilization with our level of technology. The evidence would seem to indicate that the ancient people, the ancient civilization that existed, well, I don't know how many thousands of years, but their civilization on the surface of the earth ended roughly 13,000 years ago. That's where all these thousands and thousands of stone structures that last, because you build out of stone because it lasts. Metal don't last. It rusts, it corrodes. Nature doesn't like metals purified normally. Nature likes to break it down and rust it away. So if you want something that lasts a long time, you don't build it out of metal, you build it out of stone, because stone is the longest lasting material. Anyway, those people were very advanced, and they built all this stuff and trying to figure out why. Why did they build it that way? Or how? How did they do it? They can't figure out how they did this shit. So the extremely tight tolerances, the stones are so ridiculously huge that it would be very hard for us to move today. And they want us to believe that they got a bunch of slaves and whipped them and put some ramps up and all this shit. And some of these locations are just so ridiculously hard to get to. And there's no way you could have floated them there. They tried to say that bullshit. You had those yahoos over there trying to cut a stone with copper tools because they believed that the copper tools were used for that. No, those copper tools were from a later civilization, a less advanced civilization. So we're asking questions why. Like, you shouldn't ask the question why. I mean, you should ask the question why. Don't get me wrong. I want to know why they built that pyramid. I want to know why they did a lot of shit that they did. But we have to recognize that just because we don't understand why they did it doesn't mean they didn't do it. Right? It doesn't mean they didn't do it. They clearly, like, at least with the pyramid, you can walk up there and see the damn thing's there, right? I mean, arguably, you can look up and see the moon's there and say, okay, the moon's there. But to ask why, like, not having the answer why doesn't negate the evidence that proves that it's not natural satellite. You know what I mean? The question why, we don't know why. I can tell you why. Before I knew about the moon stuff, I mentioned it earlier before you got here. Before I knew about this moon stuff, 22, 23 years ago, I was online having a pretty extensive discussion with a whole bunch of people about what I believed that humanity should do. And it basically was, again, I didn't have these thoughts about a hollow moon back then. I didn't know the evidence, but apparently we have this evidence I already mentioned. What I believe that humanity should do at all costs, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes. And I figured it would take at least 1,000 years to do what I think we should do, is build a gigantic spherical spaceship big enough to evacuate the entire population of Earth. Because if we don't have that spaceship built and some shit happens that we can't stop, like an asteroid so big that we can't stop it is coming for the Earth and it's going to obliterate the planet, crack it in half, that could happen. Well, right now, if that happens, we're all fucking dead. I don't want everybody to be fucking dead. I want us to all be alive. So we should start right now. Well, we should have started 23 years ago when I was saying it online, building this gigantic spaceship that was so huge that it would have been possibly as big as the moon. And inside it would have had cylinders, nested cylinders. One cylinder inside of another cylinder, nuclear power sources, because that would have been what we would have been able to do back then, and to provide the light. So the cylinders are all spinning at the rate necessary to produce 1 g of gravity, so that on the inside surface of these cylinders is, mountains, oceans, rivers, the whole 9 yards, so that we could preserve a wide variety of ecosystems, as well as also housing the entire population of Earth. Basically, we're saving the biome of Earth. Is it going to be extremely expensive? Yeah. Is it going to take for fucking ever? Yeah. It's going to take 1,000 years. But tomorrow, an asteroid could hit the planet that's so big that we don't have the technology to stop it. It's just if it's too big and too massive, and maybe we didn't see it in time to even do anything, wouldn't it be nice to have the opportunity to be able to evacuate everyone on the planet to this? I called it the spear ship, or the Salisbury spear back then. Evacuate all of humanity to that place, save every life, and also save, rainforest and oceans and the dolphins and the whales and the elephants and everything already there, and established ecosystems inside this gigantic spherical spaceship. That's my why. I don't know why these people built the moon, but they did, because it's there, and the evidence shows it's not natural. So somebody built the thing. But you could use my why as an example of a possible why. Maybe the possible why is to have a place to evacuate our civilization and to be able to survive. Because I believe we should try to survive, and we should do whatever we can to survive the biggest catastrophes that are possible. And there's some big freaking catastrophes that could occur, like a gigantic asteroid destroying the Earth. We've been hit by plenty of asteroids so far. We've just been lucky and not been hit by one so big that it knocks the planet into the sun or some shit. And that is a possibility. Luckily, it's a rare enough possibility that our planet's been able to float around for a few billion years and not get screwed up. But who knows how many planets out there never got the chance to develop their own intelligent species because the planet got destroyed. Of course, some people tried to say, well, there's not enough resources. I'm like, yes, there is. Yes, there is. And I had the technical shit. We discussed all the technical shit. Some people were in denial about, they had, a lot of people had really ridiculous reasons why they didn't want to do it. They basically didn't want to let you, they were like, oh, you can't go. You can't leave. I'm like, why not? Because we need you. Humanity needs all stay together. No, having all your eggs in one basket's just goddamn stupid. Most of humanity could be moved up there, and it'll be 1,000 years from now. Like, we're not going to be allowed to see it, probably, but give humanity a chance to survive, and give every other life form on the planet a chance to survive. Because we're going to need that biome, because we live in it, right? We need to eat, and you don't have an ecosystem, you're not going to eat. They're like, how's this seem possible? I'm like, look, I tried to explain everything to you, and like the nested cylinders thing. So you had a cylinder with water and land gathered up inside that cylinder. light down the center, and then on the outside surface of that cylinder, light again. You could even mimic a sun, kind of like an LED situation almost, where the lights are only turned on where the sun would be. And then the cylinder on the outside of that one, a bigger cylinder, which would have to rotate at a different speed to maintain 1 g of gravity and mimic gravity. That's what the light on the outside of the first cylinder would provide for the ecosystem on that cylinder. And then, depending on how big you make it, who knows how many cylinders you got? That's a lot of surface area. So you would have all the surface area inside a sphere that was way smaller than the Earth, but it would have as much surface area as the Earth if you so chose. So that would be my why, to save humanity, and and perhaps, this is something that we build one, and a lot of people go and start living in this thing, and we build a second one, and once the second one's completed, one of those two can start heading out and leave. One needs to stay behind to provide the evacuation potential in case the Earth is threatened, but the other one can leave and start traveling the universe. Maybe find a new planet that's suitable for humans. Terraform it. Maybe not everybody leaves the spear ship there. Maybe some people leave and colonize that planet, and then the ones in the spear ship, they go ahead and keep on flying. And then, those people on that planet, maybe they build another spear ship so they can evacuate if they need to. We getting our eggs out of one basket. Right now we're sitting on this one planet. We have zero ability to evacuate in case of a serious disaster, a planetary threat. And that is stupid. So that's my why. For me, and what I was talking about 23 years ago. But I don't know what the why is for these people. I suspect that civilization has continued to exist inside the moon this entire time. Their civilization fell on the surface of the planet because the planet got hit by a big fucking rock. So it worked, right? They had a place to evacuate to. Possibly. There's no evidence for that part. It was just the supposition there. But yeah, it would appear that they worked. Possibly. But the evidence shows that the moon is not a natural moon. So Don says, I had to spell mine like I did use my name. Pat the Drunk Zombie, says Uncle Bone. Scotch Talk with Lockie. Well, why shouldn't we invite Pat over every so often? He's not doing a regular live stream anymore, so they built it because they could, says Donald. Yeah, maybe who knows? I assume they would have to have a pretty damn good reason to build it, but Lady in the Woods says 20 years ago I was arguing about torque steer. Yeah, that was a name that it wasn't Lockie. An arc of some basically it was like an arc. That name, that word was used, you can imagine, many times during the times that the discussions about the spear ship were taking place. But our governments would never do it. Donald says not feasible. Earth would be so depleted of material there'd be nothing. That's not true. That's not true at all. And besides, with the spear ship, what we were talking about was mining the asteroid belts. And there's a lot of asteroids out there that have an exceptional amounts of metals in them that could be harvested. But for the spear ship, that was mainly because one of the things that people were arguing about, oh, you're going to be taking all our materials. I'm like, well, no, number one, I'm not. There's more materials than you know, number one. But number two, only the initial robotic systems that are built would be built on Earth. And then the rest of it would be built out of materials harvested from the asteroid belt out past Mars. Which there were people trying to say, well, you can't take those materials. I'm like, look, there is unlimited metal available of all kinds. And you guys want to claim it all and say that we can't build a spear ship and evacuate the solar system. People that say that said that we shouldn't be allowed to take the metal. Those are the people that make me want to leave the Earth. But no, there's a lot more metal than people know. There really is. Hell, we've been throwing a bunch of it in the landfills for decades. Throwing a bunch of it in the landfills. There's a lot of metal. There's a lot of metal. But I don't know that those ancient people would have used only Earth materials. They might have also mined the asteroid belt. There's a lot of metal out there just floating around. So, maybe they were on Mars too. Maybe they mined materials from Mars. Lady says, I agree, Donald. That and removing the amount of material would mess with the tilt of the Earth, putting the Earth at a risk. Negative. It wouldn't do that, but it's not as much as you're thinking. It's not as much as you got to remember. The Earth is big and solid, and in the core, most of its weight, the core is like dense, heavy materials. When you're talking about mining materials just off the surface, because you can only scratch the surface of the Earth. The Earth is big. You can only scratch the surface of the Earth as far as mining. So, no, this mess the tilt of the Earth thing, completely not possible. Completely not possible. We could mine we could scrape off a mile of material off the entire surface of the Earth, and the Earth would barely notice. There is tons of material falling to the Earth every year. I can't remember the exact number. Tons of material. Micrometeorites are always falling. Constantly we're having material added to the Earth. So again, we're talking about really big things here. The spear ship and the moon thing seem like really big things. They're not as big as you're thinking. And when you're talking about a hollow structure, the moon being so low density that it must be hollow, and the amount of materials that are there are going to be pretty low. And again, we're assuming where they got the materials. We don't know for sure they got all these materials from the Earth. They could have got it from those asteroids. But no, messing with the tilt of the Earth, absolutely not possible. You're dealing with an extremely, the core of the Earth is going to be all the densest materials, and the majority of the Earth's weight is coming from there. And here we are scratching the surface. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. Oh, pipe dream. Lady says, for LOCKBEARD's arc, how would you duplicate the protective envelope that is our atmosphere? You wouldn't need to. The entire the spear ship is a contained environment, so there would be an atmosphere inside. You're talking about You're thinking about putting it on the outside of the spear. That's not what I'm talking about. I assume that's what you mean there. But you can extract oxygen from asteroids and nitrogen and liberate it from minerals and stuff like that. So Donald says it would have to be so large we'd have to leave the woke behind. Yeah, we probably should leave the woke behind. Bone says in the 70s there was a TV show with the moon flying through space. Lady says laughing, now that would be a shame, Donald. Donald says traveling the asteroid belt would be treachery. Lady says the Three Gorges Dam changed the tilt of the Earth. Well, that's still such a slight thing. We didn't go flying away like a billiard ball or anything. Yeah, there's these slight measurements. It sounds like something bigger than it's very slight. I don't know how I can. Lady says yes, outside to protect from little asteroids zipping around in space. Well, probably some amount of atmosphere would gather anyway on the outside, but the moon doesn't really have any atmosphere either, and it takes him. I mean, you can see it's taken many impacts. It's taken a lot of impacts. So, building a strong enough shell, like apparently they did for the moon, is possible. And who knows, some other means of dealing with. Maybe they can slow it down. Maybe they fire a laser at it to slow it down. Maybe they got detection systems. I don't know. All I know is that they did it with the moon. So, and the moon is taking these impacts. And no one can explain away the shallow craters. You just can't. Other than it's got to be an extremely resilient, engineered shell underneath, because you just wouldn't see that naturally. They say, well, maybe the moon's made out of extremely tough materials. Yeah, well, you could say that, except its density is way too low. So if it was a solid ball of iron titanium alloy that used to be the core of a planet that got blowed up, it would be so unbelievably heavy that that you wouldn't have the low density measurement that they got. So again, so explain why the craters are so shallow. Explain why the moon rang like a bell in that experiment. Explain why the high titanium levels, in conjunction with these other things. Explain why the moon is too. The density of the moon is so low. Lady says yes, but a constructed tube won't be able to absorb an impact of any significance without becoming uninhabitable. Are you talking about the cylinders I was talking about? Those are inside a sphere. They're inside a sphere. The sphere ship is called sphere ship because it's a sphere. Inside the sphere, the shell, the protective shell, is the nested cylinders. And so the moon being an example of what the possibility is there. The moon's protective shell has held up. So I don't know. what kind of engineering is behind what they've built, but it's held up. And it's taken numerous asteroid impacts over thousands of years. So it's evidently possible. I mean, look. We were talking about we were talking about the submarine thing, right? Where the guy failed to build the submarine to handle the stresses that it needed to handle. Whatever the stresses you're looking to deal with, you just build to handle those stresses. And this protective shell would have to be thick enough and made out of materials that are capable of taking care of asteroid impacts. And we got facilities that can handle quite a beating. They're underground facilities, but they use like a resin or some kind in the concrete. It's nuclear hardened concrete. It's supposed to be able to handle, to some degree, a nuclear impact. Well, if we could build that stuff on the surface of the planet, well, we could probably handle building something, if we take it a step further, that can handle an asteroid impact under, as long as it isn't too damn big. And if it's something that can move, you know, not just a space station, but a spaceship. As long as you spot an asteroid that's too big to handle coming, you just move. You know, just get out of the way. I think I missed one here. Donald says, where's Chessboard and Icon to talk some sense? Yeah, I'm losing you. Chessboard's here saying hello. Bring a tail in there. Listening to you and your family. Chessboard, I'm good now. It wasn't easy at first. Yeah, it never is. Condolences to you, Donald. We are over 2 hours in. Thank y'all for hanging out. Don't know what Buzzsaw Dream saw. The object that he saw. Who knows? There's some suggestion out there that when they arrived, that they were met with a bunch of spaceships and told basically to get the fuck out there. So I don't know, but sounds wild. And as for the part where he's in that little mini documentary there, where he said, you know, there's life elsewhere in the universe, I say no, duh. There's got to be. It's not too far fetched. Donald says, thank you, Lockheed. Uncle Bone says, Chessboard, good to see you. So, yeah, let's wrap her up there. And I'll see you guys next time.
already.